I'm Christy. I'm sitting in my dark apartment, the silence heavy around me. The memory of my mother's words, "You just know how to count," still rings in my ears. It's been a long journey to get to this point, a journey that started with a simple spreadsheet and a question I'd been avoiding for far too long. Let me take you back to that fateful October morning. The light in Portland, where I live, had that same thin, silver quality, as if the sky was holding back something precious. It was a Tuesday, and I was sitting at my kitchen table, a cup of black coffee too hot to drink in front of me, and my laptop open to two tabs. One tab was for a quarterly reconciliation for a client who ran a chain of art galleries. The other tab, a nameless spreadsheet that had been my silent companion for 5 years. I opened that spreadsheet, just like I did every first of the month, and typed in the figures. My sister Lily's rent, her car insurance, and her tuition installment. The same numbers, month after month, for 3 long years. The total in cell B63 read $252,000. It was a staggering amount, but it was a number I'd grown accustomed to. As I closed the tab and opened the client reconciliation, I felt a strange sense of unease. The coffee had gone cold, and as I wrapped my hands around the mug, I was transported back to another kitchen, a kitchen filled with grief and responsibility. I was 15 years old, 2 weeks after my father's sudden passing. My father was a hard-working mechanic, and his absence left a huge void in our family. Our kitchen in the small townhouse had peeling wallpaper and a leaky faucet that my father had never gotten around to fixing. His chair at the head of the table remained untouched, a silent reminder of his absence. My mother, a kind-hearted but often overwhelmed woman, sat beside me. She took my hand and said, "Christy, you're the strong one. You're just like your dad. I need you to help me keep this family together." Lily was only 5 at the time, and she didn't fully understand what had happened. I looked into my mother's eyes and said, "Okay." And from that moment on, I took on the role of the responsible one. Over the next 24 years, I became the rock of the family. I'd stop by Mrs. Jenkins' apartment on my way to work. She was an 83-year-old widow with a bad back, and I'd pick up her groceries every Tuesday. She'd always tell me, "You're such a good girl, Christy," and I'd smile, but inside, I was starting to feel the weight of everyone's needs. One day at the office break room, I met my colleague, Sarah. She was heating up her lunch in the microwave when she said, "My daughter, Emily, finally got a job." I stopped paying for her phone bill in March, and it took her until May to realize she could handle it on her own. She was furious at me at first, but then she got a promotion. I listened, thinking that Lily's situation was different. She needed more time, or so I thought. But then, one Wednesday, my mother called me. I was in my car in the parking garage, having a quick lunch. My mother's voice was warm, but I could sense the underlying need. "Christy, Lily found a great apartment near her college. The only problem is her credit isn't good enough, and the landlord wants a co-signer." I was thinking. I cut her off. "No," I said firmly. There was a long silence on the line. Then my mother said, "I don't understand you, Christy. Lily is your sister. She's trying. She just needs a little more time." I replied, "My name is not nothing, Mom." And with that, I ended the call. I sat in my car, looking at the concrete pillar in front of me. I noticed for the first time a graffiti that said P3 on it. I sat there for 8 minutes, thinking about my decision. Then I opened my autopay app and started canceling all the payments I'd been making for Lily. It was a liberating yet terrifying feeling. Over the next few days, things started to change. Lily left a voicemail, confused about why the automatic payments hadn't gone through. I listened to it once and then set my phone down. I realized that I'd been so focused on taking care of others that I'd forgotten about myself. On the 5th day, my mother called again. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was filled with worry about Lily's lease. I didn't call her back. I was starting to understand that sometimes, saying no is the only way to take control of your own life. On the 7th day, Sarah noticed a change in me. "Did you do something different?" she asked. I told her I'd canceled some subscriptions. She looked at me with a newfound understanding and nodded. It was the first time in a long time that someone had really seen me. On the 9th day, I drove to the grocery store but didn't go in. I sat in my car, looking at the entrance, and realized that I had no idea who I was when I wasn't solving someone else's problems. I thought about all the things I'd done for others, the groceries for Mrs. Jenkins, the financial support for Lily, the constant calls to my mother. I sat there for 11 minutes, and then I went inside and bought exactly what I wanted: fresh flowers, a nice bottle of wine, and some gourmet pasta. On the 11th day, a call came from a bank. It was regarding an auto loan account where I was a co-signer for Lily. I told them they had the wrong number. It was a simple yet powerful statement. I realized that I'd been saying wrong number to myself for years, living a life that wasn't truly mine. I started researching how to remove myself as a co-signer. It was going to be a long and difficult process, but I was determined. Then, my mother called from the parking lot of my office building. She asked me to come down and talk. I looked out the window and saw her car. But I said, "I'm in the middle of something, Mom. I'll call you later." And I didn't. I understood that there was a difference between absence and abandonment. I was choosing to take care of myself for the first time. On the 15th day, my mother stopped calling. Lily sent a text saying, "I guess we know where your priorities are." I read it and set my phone down. I was starting to find a new sense of peace. I went for a run for the first time in 2 years. As I ran through the streets of Portland, the cool October air on my face, I felt alive. I ran past a coffee shop I'd always wanted to try and a park where an old couple was playing chess. I ran for 26 minutes, and when I got back, I felt a sense of accomplishment. A few days later, my mother texted me, saying the family was getting together on Sunday to talk things out. I remembered the last time she'd called a family meeting. It was when I was 18, and there was an issue with my college savings. I ended up going to a state school, and my mother tried to make me feel better by saying state schools were just as good. I decided to prepare for the family meeting. I opened that spreadsheet again and read through all the entries from September 2019 to March 2024. I saw all the money I'd spent on Lily, the rent, the car insurance, the tuition. The total had now reached $257,400. I printed out the spreadsheet and took it with me to the family meeting. When I arrived, everyone was already there: Uncle Tom, Aunt Lucy, Cousin Jake, Lily, and my mother. I sat down and said, "I want to read something to all of you." I started reading the figures, month by month. Lily started crying around 2021, but I kept going. When I finished, I said, "I'm not asking for the money back. I just want you all to know the truth." I then told them 3 things. I won't be providing financial support to anyone in this family going forward. When someone tells me I only care about myself or that I don't know how to love people, that's the end of the conversation. And I'll call when I want to call. My mother looked at me and said, "I didn't know." I believed her. It was both heartbreaking and freeing. She apologized, and I left the room. 3 months later, I'm sitting here, looking out the window. Lily moved back to my mother's house. My mother sent me a picture of a flower from her garden. The apartment is quiet, but it's a quiet that I'm starting to appreciate. I've learned that being needed and being loved are not the same thing. And I'm finally closing the account of a life that was never truly mine, ready to embrace the new chapter that awaits.